Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Heart of Christ Ministry Podcast. I know it's been up and down this year. Uh, you might not even know what I'm talking about, but so I switched from Heart of Christ to Lightwalker, and now I'm really switching back to Heart of Christ at this moment. But I think I'm going to integrate Lightwalker anyway. Like I said, you may have no idea what I'm discussing, but I just had some brand changes, some name changes happening here that I was pondering and looking over the course of this year. But it's been so busy, and once I really had the time to reflect, I had the opportunity to realize, Heart of Christ Ministry is who I am. Heart of Christ Ministry is everything that I stand for, and that is the true eternal nomenclature that I feel like this ministry deserves. And so I've changed my mind. So now I got to go back and change all of the marketing and stuff that I switched over to Lightwalker. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Hope you guys are fantastic. I am Reverend Sean Robert Grant. Welcome to Heart of Christ Ministry Podcast, also known as the Love Your Vibe Podcast, but now is the presently Heart of Christ Podcast. Hope all is fantastic with you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for being here with me. Whether you're listening to it present or you downloaded and listening to it in the future, I want to once again thank you for being here. Got a great message for you today. Just wanted to let you know, guys, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, any correspondence, it's not that we necessarily need it, but if you feel like you want to reach out to us over at Heart of Christ Ministry, please do so. SHAUNG04@gmail.com. Write to us. We'll get back to you as soon as we can in a very expedient manner. So thank you in advance for doing that. Just know that we are here to inspire, which means to help people to get in spirit, right? And uplift and empower and help them to just be their very best. And so I am excited about continuing to do that on this journey. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you guys. Can't say that enough. So yes, if you feel up to it, write to us. We got some books available. I had mentioned this before, but The Universe Loves You, a book written by me and my lovely wife. We have that available on Amazon and Kindle. It's an amazing, amazing book, and it talks about how basically the title says it, the universe loves you. So give it a look. Available Amazon Kindle as well as Amazon paperback. I was about to say Amazon Prime. No, it's not on Amazon Prime yet, but maybe in the future. But you can get that on Kindle or paperback on Amazon. And also The Money Cure, right? The Money Cure. It's a book I wrote which basically allows you to reach the highest, or one of the highest levels of consciousness, I feel, as it relates to money. And it's a really in-depth story. It's a short read too, but it's very powerful. It's a book that you can carry with you and really begin to understand and know just the deeper consciousness and concepts around how to allow money to grow into your life. And you're just going to love it. That's on Amazon Prime. Amazon. That's on Amazon in Kindle and in paperback as well. Amazon Prime. I'm obsessed with Amazon Prime. But anyway, guys, thank you for bearing with me. There's a lot I had to convey there. But now let's get into our episode. Today's episode, Understanding God's Nature. Understanding God's nature. Yes. Omnipresence, Omnipotence, and Omniscience, right? So at one time or another, you may have heard these three words sort of thrown around a bit. And the reality is, oftentimes when something of this magnitude comes out, we don't really understand. I mean, we may have an intellectual understanding, but the truth is, once we get to the bottom of what those words actually mean, then they begin to display power in our lives, power in the sense of understanding that God is allness, God is fullness, God is everything and everyone, nothing separated, nothing missing, nothing added, all here, right now, in every single dimension, every single form of spirit, matter, material, whatever it is there, right? And that is a miraculous thing. And today I'm going to explain that to you and why it relates to allowing you to live your very best life, or even add to living your best life. These concepts are really just profound. And, when I first learned about them, it took some time, but I feel like I've been blessed with the ability to recognize the consciousness of God within me, even ever since I was a little kid. And that's given me the power to be able to convey to whoever's listening, with their spiritual ears, and whoever's willing to accept and to comprehend it. It's really given me, an opportunity to give back in that realm, to give back in that regard. And so I'm stoked, man. I'm really stoked. So let's get into it. So the first one, God is omnipresence. Okay. And so once again, understanding the nature of God. To know God is to understand the nature of God to the degree that we can't understand the nature of God, because God is all. God is also a mystery as well as something to be understood, right? Once again, there's no dual, like we said here in the past. Well, probably on my other podcast, we've said there is no dualistic living. There's no dualistic concepts when it comes to God, because dualism indicates that if it's one thing, then it's got to be something else, or, it's got to be one or the other. But the actuality is God is all of it. Okay, so we see omnipresence. In short, excuse me, the definition of omnipresence is all present, right? All that is. And so one of my most compelling, transformative moments in my spiritual ascension or spiritual journey was when I realized that if God is omnipresent, that means God is present everywhere, right? And so if you know me, I've had this journey, this long journey with money ever since I was a kid, and a deeper desire and urge to understand the truth about money. And this was one of the things that really opened me up, because once I realized God is all present and all presence, it means God is everywhere, right? It means not only is God everywhere, but because God is everywhere, a lot of the things that seem to be real in this 3D reality become obsolete, become nothingness. Okay. And so let me tell you what I mean by that. So I can remember when I came across this concept, I was struggling a bit financially, and I was, excuse me. Sorry. I was having a lot of trouble, and I just didn't, from a human mental mind perspective, I didn't understand how I was ever going to get past this point. And the reality is, it's funny I say that, the human mind couldn't get me to that place. My spiritual mind, the divine mind, was going to be the key to help me to rise above the issues that I had. And so I began to understand that God is all present. God is presence. God is present everywhere. And so I thought to myself, wait a minute. If God is present everywhere, that means God is present in my finances. God is present in my relationship. God is present in my body, in my health, in my mindset. God is present in everything. And if God is present, guess what? There can be no lack. There can be no struggle. There can be no discord. There can be no harmony, because that would indicate that God is lacking in some form or fashion, and it is not. God is allness. God is all that is. God is wholeness. God is complete. Nothing missing, nothing added. Wow. I know, right? If you just got what I said, if you were able to comprehend that, and it's okay if you didn't, but if you were able to understand what I just said, it alleviates so much turmoil in your life. Like, I'm talking on the deepest conscious level possible, right? To understand that God is present present everywhere, all present. All that is to understand that if God is all present in my finances, I never had, right? I never had any money issues other than the ones that I chose to believe in. And God loves me so much that it gives me the power to believe, right? It gives me the power to believe in what I choose to believe. But when I choose to believe in His power, in His activity, in His grace, right? In His presence, guess what happens? Everything aligns itself, right? In a perfect capacity, because God is what? Divine perfection, right? So before I move on to the next one, I just want you to really get this. Wherever God is, only divine perfection can exist. Wherever God is, only allness, only wholeness, only everything that is within everything can exist. Okay? That means there can be no lack. Lack does not exist. And I'm going to tell you something here where we talked about the dualistic living thing. There can be no lack. There can be no abundance. Why? Because God is all, right? There can be no good. There can be no evil. Why? Because the allness of God is above those concepts. Those concepts are man-made humanhood concepts, right? There's just grace. There's just grace and there's expression in the expression of God, right? That carries so much magnitude with it. I'm going to let you marinate on that. And I want you to come back and listen to this until you get what I'm saying. If you don't get it yet, because it's important, it's very significant. Okay. Take a minute right here. Just think about what I just said about God being all present everywhere at all times. All right. So that was deep, yo. That was deep. Moving on. So now we move to God is, therefore I am, right? God is not only omnipresence, but God is omnipotence. God is omnipotence. God is omnipotence. And what does omnipotence tell us that God is? God is all power. And what is power? The ability to do something, right? The activity of something. So when we know that God is omnipotent, we know that God is all power. So what does that mean? That means that there is no evil. There is no, for you Christians out there is no devil, right? The devil is something that is made up by man. It's a man-made concept that if it did exist, God could not exist because guess what? As we stated, discord, lack, inharmony, disharmony, right? Struggle, all those things cannot exist in God. So if God is the only power, tell me, what does that mean, guys? What does that mean? That means that God is the only activity operating in every single activity of life, in every single thing that goes on. Everybody, it's one consciousness. It's one power. And that power is pure. That power is grace. That power is expression. There is no evil, right? Whenever you see someone doing something that is quote unquote evil, it means that they're operating from the mental. the carnal mind, the human mind. They're not operating from the divine mind. That shows us right there that what people choose to do is consciously remove themselves, separate themselves, right? And sometimes unconsciously, from God being the all that is, the allness, the wholeness, the one truth, the one power. Individuals separate themselves. They separate themselves. And once you're separated from God, then you are susceptible to believing in other powers, right? Let's take this into modern day terms. Your boss is not the greatest power in your life, right? Your boss is subjected to God's omnipotence, right? God's activity, God's power, God's ability to move in your life. Everyone in this universe is subjected to that. Why? Because God is omnipotence, which means all power. There is nothing that can stop that. There is nothing that can hinder that, except if we believe in two powers, if we separate ourselves from the essence within us that knows, not just believes, but knows there is only one power, right? And this is huge, right? I can't begin to tell you guys how much of a release it was when I understood that I was the one creating all of my issues and it wasn't some devil entity, Lucifer, Morning Star, whatever, creating these issues for me, right? And our minds can really conjure up some stuff because, you get into this idea that there's an evil power after you, or there's evil outside. Guess what? That's exactly what you draw to yourself, right? I fought for years wondering, can I just catch a break? Why is the devil? It was because I was making up the devil in my own mind through my faulty older conditioning that made me believe that I was in a space to where there was any other power other than God. Okay? So remember that. God is all power, all activity. Nothing is outside of God. Nothing, right? And so you may be thinking, well, what about the individuals that decide to kill and stab and do everything else? Well, here's the thing. They take their God-given power, they separate themselves from the essence and the divinity that is God, and then they use their mental and their carnal mind to make decisions, right? So when you see somebody, because here's the thing, once again, death, even, discord, disharmony, struggle, lack, all these things, hatred, they can't exist in God, right? So what happens? In order for them to exist, we have to separate ourselves from God. And that's what happens when you see people act in ways that seem completely opposite of the nature of who God is. Okay? All right. Till now, one more to go. God is omniscience. Okay? God is omniscient, or just omniscience altogether, right? So if you're a scholar like me, you already know omniscience means all knowing, all knowledge, right? I like all knowledge. You want to know why? Because all knowledge belongs to the Father, right? All knowledge belongs to the Father. All wisdom belongs to the Father. All concepts, every concept is of God, right? This is why when we learn to connect and embody and expand our own intuition, or our own connection to our intuition rather, this is why we're never felt like we're out of harmony or in misalignment with the truth that God gives to us, with its essence being omniscient, all knowing, all knowledge, right? We only, once again, only when we're separate from God do we experience confusion. Remember, it is impossible for God to experience any type of discord. Confusion is discord. When you get confused, a lot of times you've separated yourself. Actually, all the time, you've separated yourself from the essence of God, which is the omniscient aspect of God within yourself, right? And so at first this can seem like, oh, like this is confusing. What do you mean I've separated myself? But, we've been doing it for the longest time, right? Because even if you want to go date back to the Garden of Eden, that was a reflection. That was a metaphor for the moment Adam and Eve did what God told them not to do. They separated themselves from the pureness, the purity that was God, right? And so there, the ego was born. And when the ego was born, right, that's when human beings started to go off on their own instead of using their own inborn God consciousness to operate in life, right? That's when all of a sudden, once again, harmony turns into disharmony, and you have, all these issues unfolding because humans from that point on learn to be separate from God as opposed to what? One with God, right? Understanding that God is all power, all presence, right? And now all knowledge, all wisdom. So how does this one serve us, right? How does this impact our life? Easily. You never have to be in the dark about anything. And the reality is if you're unable to discern, right, through the level of discernment that God gives, guess what? God's going to show you. God's going to give you the truth right in front of your face to help you to see what things are, what they truly are, right? It's never about what they appear to be. And that's the most amazing thing about the essence of God. It'll show you exactly what it is. When you say, help me to see with the eyes of God, you're saying, help me to see with the all powerful. Help me to see with the all knowledge. Help me to see with the all wisdom. Help me to see with the all presence. And that's exactly what you're going to get. So whenever you have to make a big decision, what you begin to understand is I have access to the all that is. I have access to all knowledge, right? All knowledge about everything. And so thank you for having the intuition that can connect to that being that is God, that's all wisdom, all knowledge, and all understanding, right? It's simple, but it's not always easy because there's so many things that I wouldn't say try, but they can separate us from these three powers, these three elements of God that transform the way we live our lives. It's an amazing thing to know and to truly understand that these are within each of us right here, right now, at this moment and every moment as we go on, and every moment since birth. We've always had them because we've always been one with the Father. We've always been one with God. Okay, so to sort of wrap up the omniscience of God, it's just how much confidence can we move into in life knowing that all knowledge, wisdom, insight, and understanding belongs, and not only belongs, but it's present in us, right? You need to know something. You go down, you have a meditation, you quiet your mind, you connect to the divine mind, and exactly what you need, you're going to get, because what? God is in you, and God is omniscient, right? Omniscience, not even sent, but omniscience, right? And so that elevates us to the highest possible level in so many different dimensions. on every dimension, right? When we understand those powers, when we understand the nature, the very nature of who God is and who God is to us, we become unstoppable, right? Things that once existed because of a misunderstanding of the human mind no longer exist, and we are living in peace. We are living in truth. We are living in a level of satisfaction that only can be equal to the divine. And that, my dears, is why it's important to understand the very nature of God. And so it is. All right. That by far was one of my favorite messages to this date. I'm so glad that you guys were here to join me for it. Once again, if you want to chit chat or add any correspondence, you have any questions about anything, any topics you would like me to discuss on this podcast, I'm available for you. SHAUNG04@gmail.com. Thank you in advance for doing so. Guys, I hope you have a wonderful night, a wonderful day, wonderful morning, wonderful afternoon, whatever time you're listening to this. Thank you in advance for tuning in and downloading this podcast and the other podcasts that I've done. My sole purpose, I feel like, is really to just inspire people and once again help them to be in spirit, to understand the truth, to know the truth, to receive the truth when their spirit is ready for it, and to just enjoy their lives in the most wonderful way possible. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. Have a wonderful rest of the day, night, wherever you are. We will talk soon. Thanks so much. Take care.